This is the ultimate question. What phone should I buy in 2021? Not everyone has $1,000 to spend on a phone, but at $800 new, the iPhone 12 seems like a decent choice. But with that price aside, this is actually a really good phone compared to last year. But let's talk about it first. Should you buy the iPhone 12 in 2021? Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review. Check out the social media listed above, and if you like the video or the channel, feel free to subscribe for more videos this year. Alright, let's review the sub-premium iPhone, done right. This is one of my favorite cheap screens. Like the iPhone 12 mini, the screen is an OLED panel, not an LCD like Apple normally does. Actually, 2020 was the first year that Apple actually dropped the LCD panels on iPhones, with the second generation SE excluded. Not to mention, the screen is pretty much the same as the iPhone 12 Pro, with some saying that it's literally the same screen. But anyways, this 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display is 2532 by 1170, making it 460 pixels per inch. The maximum screen brightness is about 625 nits, while the Pro hits about 800 nits. With that said, these both hit 1200 nits when viewing HDR content. Other than that, the screen specs are pretty much the same, which would make sense that they would actually be the same screen, just with Apple controlling the software and making it so the iPhone 12 brightness isn't as bright as the iPhone 12 Pro. There are a lot of parts shared from the Pro model, but we can talk about that a little bit later. But this time, Apple made me happy with a cheap phone. Well, kind of. Sure, it is an OLED screen, but at what cost? Well, the phone's cost. This is the first sub $1,000 iPhone with an OLED screen, which generally means that this will suck, but this is higher than a 1080p screen and looks amazing, honestly. Sure, the refresh rate is 60Hz, but it makes sense given the price point, and it still looks really smooth, like normal. There is a notch on the top, which is expected of the iPhones of the last couple of years. What isn't entirely new is that flat screen, which follows through to pretty much the whole entire phone. This makes screen protectors not only fit better, but actually stretch to the edge of the screen. But on this phone, I chose not to leave a screen protector on this phone because of the ceramic shield, which seems to be holding up pretty well, even though scratch resistance isn't normally a benefit. It's supposed to be harder to break the screen, and other videos will show you that that is true. When it comes to viewing content, I never have any issues with the screen. And if you watch HDR content, this is probably one of the best phone screens to do that on. For me, the screen is pretty much a perfect balance of screen size and usability. With this said, I will contradict that statement by saying I still love the iPhone 12 mini screen. Being a non-Pro model, this is actually a pretty outstanding device, and most of that goes into the screen. The rest of it, however, goes into the hardware. The sides of the phone are sharp, depending on how you look at it. I never really experienced a sharp feeling on my 12 or 12 mini, but for some it is there. It feels nice and familiar in the hands and almost feels perfectly light at that 164 grams, but it still feels durable and nice in the hands. If you have small hands, this might be a little bit too big, but the phone fits nicely in most people's hands. Then actually using the phone, everything is so familiar because it's, well, an iPhone. You have the safe and reliable iOS 14 as your operating system, as well as the normal feeling of an iPhone. This goes without really explaining because nowadays you get either Android or iOS when it comes to buying phones, and obviously iPhones are going to be iOS. But my favorite part is how snappy the apps are with this A14 Bionic chip that's paired with the 4GB of RAM. This means that whatever you throw at it will just work, because it's the most powerful device that app is made to run on, whether we're talking about basic apps or graphic-intensive games. This phone comes with lots and lots of connectivity, just like the other 12 series iPhones, like Wi-Fi 6, the U1 chip, NFC, and 5G, which includes millimeter wave 5G. With all this, we get a decent 2815 mAh battery to power on the phone, which does its job, I guess. It isn't the battery champ like the iPhone 11 or iPhone XR normally are, but it still lasts a long time with 5G in full brightness. This Geekbench test isn't too bad either, but it should be a little bit better. Still, the phone supports 15-watt wireless charging through MagSafe and 18-watt charging through the USB-C plug on the bottom. Sorry, it's still the Lightning plug. Remember, this phone is supposed to be copying the iPhone 5 style. With that wireless charging, we also get superior water resistance of up to 6 meters, assuming that it, actually works. There is a loudspeaker on the front and on the bottom, which is pretty normal by now and still sounds really good. Maybe slightly better than the iPhone 11, but still really good. Overall, there is so much about this phone that is awesome, but there are still some downsides. One of those major downsides is the price. Like I said in my mini video, it seems like there was some work done to make this phone. This phone starts at $799 or $829 if you buy the phone unlocked, which is $100 to $130 more than last generation iPhone 11 and $50 to $80 more than the launch price of the iPhone XR. We now have 5G and an OLED screen to justify this, but it still feels like Apple gave us the iPhone 12 mini at the iPhone 11 price just so that no one would complain. Even with that, the phone still feels justified, but at 64GB for $800, the $849 128GB phone seems like a smarter idea. With all this said, most people are going to be simply upgrading or financing their phone, so the full price shouldn't really matter too much, but it is something to think about if you plan on buying the phone outright. The more you think about it, the price could be justified, but with the iPhone 12 Pro starting at $1,000, it makes you wonder if the $150 price difference is worth a better screen and build quality. Remember, you get a glossy glass on the back with an aluminum frame, which does save weight, but also price. Before we get to the end, there is one last thing I want to talk about. This phone in the lineup is special and weird. Of all the years, Apple decided that 2020 was a perfect year to drop 4 iPhone models, which makes things weird in 2021. Are we getting 4 new iPhones this year? What iPhone 12 models will Apple keep or drop? Either way, we can appreciate that Apple gave us reasonable devices for decent prices, with one exception. We have an A12 iPhone XR at $500, A13 iPhone SE, and iPhone 11 at $400 and $600. Then we have an A14 iPhone 12 mini, iPhone 12, iPhone 12 Pro, and iPhone 12 Pro Max at $700, $800, $1,000, and $1,100, respectively. Even with the random iPhone XR in there, this all makes sense. This gives people a lot of choice when it comes to buying an iPhone, but the iPhone 12 and 12 mini seem to be the best bang for buck, in my opinion. I'm actually surprised at how amazing this iPhone actually became. I was always disappointed by the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11, mainly because of the screen, but Apple finally bridged that gap, but added some money to that gap. With this said, we do get 5G and an OLED screen, but we do get a smaller battery as well. But really, I don't have too many complaints for this phone. Like I said, there are some small parts that are interchangeable with the iPhone 12 Pro, so it almost feels like it does justify that $800 price tag, seeing how close it is to the iPhone 12 Pro. With this said, the phone is still a cheaper model, which does have some differences from the Pro models, like the added camera features, but this is something that I left for this section. Now the camera is pretty much the same as the iPhone 12 mini, so go check out that video for a longer section about that, but there are 3 usable cameras on this phone, all with night mode and HDR Dolby Vision video up to 30 frames per second, and with one of those cameras obviously having optical image stabilization. Regardless of what you choose, sensor or mode, these cameras will produce some outstanding photos and videos, being my go-to for video and photography when I was asked to capture media for other people. And that's the best part about this section, is that the specs don't really matter because the results speak for themselves. And that's something that I would say that does not apply to the iPhone XR or the 11. It would be nice to see a telephoto lens for better portrait shots, but even then this phone doesn't need it. Even though I'm sticking to the iPhone 12 mini, I'm happy to see that all the parts for the iPhone 12 series will fit perfectly for people that do and do not care about how much the phone can do. And I think this is the first time in a while for Apple. So should you buy this phone? I would easily say yes, with an exception. I don't see Apple getting too much better on this phone near the end of 2021, so this would be a safe bet. Similar to how Apple made a slightly better phone moving from the iPhone XR to the iPhone 11, this jump from the iPhone 11 to the iPhone 12 is definitely worth it. Even then, if you're tired of something like the iPhone XS or the iPhone 11 Pro, this is still a pretty decent upgrade, something I would have never said with the iPhone 11. Sure, there are still some downsides, but Apple really stepped up their game to not only make a good phone on paper, but also a good phone in real-world usage. And that's all I wanted to talk about. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section or message me on any of the social media listed above. And as always, thanks for watching.